So here at Action Your Potential, we're all about building neuro ninjas. So what's a neuro ninja, you might ask? A neuro ninja is someone that lives in their brain, understanding enough about how it works to get the most out of it every single day. Your brain is amazing. It is more powerful than any bit of kit you own, more powerful than an Xbox, a PlayStation, your phone, more powerful than the large language models that run AI. It's an incredible piece of kit. In fact, if you think about all those bits of technology I've just mentioned, none of them would exist if it wasn't for the brain. So you've got everything you need at the top of your neck, and what we're going to teach you over the course of today is how to get the most out of your brain so you can deliver for yourself every single day. So the mission is to invite you to come on a journey with us. It is a fantastically interesting story. It is the story of the most important person in your life. It is the story of you. It will be engaging, it will be exciting, and it will change your life if you let it. Minds are like parachutes. They work well when they are fully open. We're inviting you to come on this journey to become a neuro ninja. Our mission at Action Your Potential, and been around for 7 years now, is to save the world one brain at a time. We do that working in schools, 190 schools to date. We do that working in businesses. We work across lots of businesses, and we support individuals to understand themselves and then, crucially, to begin to change their experience of themselves and improve their lives. So, in order to introduce you to the power of neuroscience, I want to show you something. Have a look at this video. Now that's not that remarkable, is it? A guy walking his cockapoo. But when you think about this chap's life just a week before this video was shot, in his kitchen, trying to make a cup of tea, with the full symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Now Parkinson's disease is a neurological disorder which affects the brain's ability to manage movement. And you can see how difficult a simple process of starting and stopping the movements required to make a cup of tea is for this guy. But then he becomes part of a random controlled trial to test the effectiveness of a new drug for Parkinson's. And you can see the impact that drug has had, or those different drugs have had, over the course of a week. That's a week later. Incredible. That is the power of neuroscience. It helps us change ourselves because it doesn't deal in woo-woo, superstitious nonsense and some conspiracy theories. You can find loads of those through your social media app of choice or on the internet. What science does is it uses evidence to understand the world, and that's because it is so important that in this one life we get the most out of our amazing brain. So our company is called Action Your Potential. It's quite nerdy, that title, because your neurons release action potentials, bursts of electricity. That is all we are, actually, bursts of electricity and the neurochemicals that support the brain to produce our sense of ourselves. So we would say action your potential, because good enough is not good enough in pursuit of your life's work, the things you want to do. And at Action Your Potential, it's about giving you the gift of yourself, understanding that you've got everything you need already. Your body and brain's amazing, but it requires certain things from you each day to get that best sense of you. So we've got a team. Obviously, you'll be meeting a range of these different people over the course of our work with you, but our mission is to help people change themselves. And all of us have been changed by this work already. It is impossible to learn about the brain without really thinking about and reflecting upon yourself in a deep way that makes a huge amount of sense and enables us to make better choices every day. And across the school, there are all these possibilities of support available. There's pods where we come in and coach groups of students to be successful. There's workshops, there's webinars for parents and students and staff, and there's individual virtual one-to-one coaching. So we're here today to deal with the challenge of GCSEs. And it is a challenge, but it is absolutely 1,000,000% a surmountable challenge. You can do it. So the first thing I want you to think about is the preciousness of your life. As far as we know from the evidence from science, this is the only life we get. This is the one opportunity we get, and there are no kind of reruns. We've got to, as we go through our lives, learn, improve and grow to try and get the best out of every single experience. It's a precious thing, your life. You are precious, more precious than you realise, and we want to help you get the most out of your incredible body and brain to achieve all the wonderful things that you want to achieve, all the inspirational things that you want to achieve, all those things that are challenging and scare you. So, the way that we do that is by not looking at the future in a panicked way and thinking, wow, I've got to do all these things, how am I going to possibly fit them in? It's much more about working with your brain. And we say that you don't decide your future, you decide the habits that you do each day, and those habits decide your future. So there'll be lots of habits that we'll share with you. Habits to support you managing your worry system, habits to support you managing your well-being, habits to support your learning and study at GCSEs. Now, living supportively and well in a body and brain requires work. It requires us to engage in activities. Sometimes we may not want to do those activities. For example, after a hard day at school, we may not want to go to the gym, but actually exercise is an important habit for our body and brain's well-being. So I want you to think about your life in a way that you might not have thought about it before. I want you to think about your life as 30,000 days. That's the average life expectancy of men and women currently, somewhere between 82 and 83 years. 100 years ago, you weren't here and I wasn't here. In 100 years' time, we're not going to be here either. So we've got this window, this 30,000 days on planet Earth. And I want you to reflect on and think about the sorts of things you might want to do over the course of that 30,000 days. Where do you want to go? What kind of job do you want to do? Who do you want to help? How will the world be different locally to you, nationally around you, globally, because you were here? You might say something like, I want to make lots of money, but that's not a good enough answer, actually. No one is going to pay you loads of money just to rock up in the world. You need to give the world something it really needs in order to earn money. And more importantly than that, what your brain needs is purpose. So, have a think, maybe pause the video, or have a think about what you'd like to have done in your life. Our lives, in the end, are the sum of the choices that we make. So, think about this box, put in this box 3 things you would like to have achieved by the age of 50, say. Maybe a place you want to visit, maybe a job you want to have done, maybe some achievements in your life you want to have ticked off by the age of 50. Being a neuroninja is all about becoming a metacognitive human. Metacognition is the ability human brains have to witness their own operation, their thoughts and feelings, and not get lost in them. Metacognitive humans are better humans. It means we can respond to the world rather than react to the world. So if someone says something to us in the crowded corridor that's really mean, rather than lash out and punch them, we give a much better response that is supportive of us and what we want to achieve in our lives, is not violent, but also does deal with that person's behaviour. Responsiveness, reporting it, rather than reacting, smacking somebody. In order to get our heads around the way the body and brain produce us, I want you to think about this really powerful idea. We are not what we think we are. We think we're a mind bossing around a body and a brain. But actually, the neuroscience is really clear about this. There's very strong evidence for this, that our body and brain together produce our mind. So think of the body and brain as a projector. The mind is the image being projected by that body and brain. So whatever we're doing, whatever experiences our body and brain are having, that's affecting the flavour of our mind. Think about this. Sunday night, the night before you go back to school and work, you feel a bit moany, groany and drony. It's called Sunday Scaries because the body and brain is getting itself ready for the next day. So emergence describes this idea that we emerge from our body and brain's interactions and our neural architecture every single day. Another way into that idea of emergence is to think about what you're like after only 3 hours sleep. After 3 hours sleep, you're grumpy, you're more anxious, you've got 20% less memory and 50% less attention. Why is that? Because the network of the brain has been damaged by the lack of sleep and it's not functioning as effectively. So emergence references this fact that our mind is an emerging property of our body and brain's interactions moment to moment. And to understand that idea, think about it this way. Think about a toddler in the aisle of, at Tesco's or another supermarket brand of your choice. The toddler is reaching out of the trolley, trying to get hold of the Haribo they've just spotted. Their reward-seeking circuits, though, are thwarted because Dad doesn't want them to have the Haribo and is starting to back slowly out of that aisle. And therefore, the toddler, who doesn't have any regulation circuits developed yet because they're just a toddler, melts down. But it's not just kids in supermarket aisles that melt down faced with sweets. It's the guy behind you at the roundabout. You're being driven to school or you're on the way to work, and what happens is the guy behind you at the roundabout starts tooting his horn because he thinks that the slow driving that you're exhibiting, the safe driving they're exhibiting, is annoying and in his way, and he is having a meltdown behind you. He's probably driving a particular kind of German car. I won't mention the brand of car. He's aggressively tooting his horn, he's mouthing rude words and maybe making rude hand gestures, but it's a meltdown. Think about this. Before lunch, an actual study in the US, judges hearing parole, deciding whether prisoners can come out of prison at the end of their sentence, judges hearing parole with low blood sugar when they're hangry before lunch let fewer prisoners out on parole than after lunch. When they've eaten, they feel calmer, less frustrated, and they let more prisoners out on parole. That's emergence in action. Think about how adolescence has changed over the last 20 years. And while mobile phones have got lots of positives, spending a lot of time doom scrolling our way through social media, comparing ourselves with other people, lowers our mood and can move us into a space where our mental health is suffering. So that is the idea of emergence. And if we connect that with being aware of how our brain works, we gain this massively powerful idea of insight. Now, insight is sitting in our head, watching what our brain is doing and not getting lost in it. And insight means that we understand this incredible power of our brain. Our brain is shaped by 4 psychological and social forces. Our brain is shaped by what we do each day, our daily habits, how we're treated by those around us, how we think about ourselves, and the goals that we have. That wrinkly bit on top of our brain, the neocortex, is hugely shaped by these 4 psychosocial forces. So being a neuroninja means understanding that those forces are sculpting our neural architecture and changing one of them. Building a new habit, for example, setting ourselves a new goal, engaging in a new relationship, or developing a different way of thinking about ourselves will change our brain, which then, because our brain produces our mind, will change what's possible in our world. Think of it this way. Think of insight, this awareness that we're produced by our brain, and our consciousness comes up from our brain every day and changes as a result of our body and brain changing. Think of it like a balloon. We're floating above our thoughts and feelings, witnessing them, not just getting lost in them. And that means that if we have good 4 psychosocial forces, habits, relationships with others and ourselves, and positive goals, we're in a stable balloon. But if we don't have good habits, if we're not treated well by others, if we're not in a good relationship with ourselves and we don't have positive goals, we drop from the insight balloon and get lost in other circuits in our brain. Circuits of anxiety start puppeting our behaviour. Circuits of OCD. Circuits of fake self. Circuits of anger. Circuits of low mood. All of those things puppet us rather than being in the circuits at the top of our brain that help us move our brain forward. So, the most swankiest, newest bit of our evolutionary kit is called the neocortex. That is that area on top of our brain, highlighted blue there. It is wrinkly because it is a large surface inside the tight surface of the cranium. Imagine a hanky or a napkin, flat and then scrunched up and put in a glass. That's why the neocortex is folded. And the reason I'm mentioning the neocortex to you, it's how we manage our brain from the top. Our brain is 86 billion neurons, 300 trillion connections, and we are, and I'm sure you've experienced this, driven sometimes by impulses and instincts that aren't helpful to us. I mentioned lashing out at someone. For example, eating junk food late at night. These are impulses and instincts which aren't actually good for us. What our neocortex enables us to do is manage our brain from the top. And it turns out, from research, that the thicker our neocortex is, and when I say thick, a thick neocortex would be 5 millimeters thick, so not that thick, but a thicker neocortex connected well to itself and the rest of the brain gives us more mental flexibility, more cognitive bandwidth, more ability to flex our behaviours in the face of challenge and change. And in the midst of your GCSE year, you'll know there's a lot of challenge out there, but actually, challenge and change is the currency of life. Our life is going to be full of challenge and change. So if we can nurture our neocortex by building good habits, having good relationships with others, building a good and positive relationship with ourselves, and having challenging, inspiring goals, we're going to be able to move our brain forward. So our neocortex is where we build future plans and then put together the actions that we're going to need to do to make those plans happen. So those plans might be something we're doing later that day, or it might be the end of this year. We want to pass our GCSEs. So you could think of the neocortex as the imaginative space where we imagine the future, but then also put together the actions to create that future. It creates the bridge between our current self and our future self, which leads us to be thinking about this idea of temporal self. Temporal means time. So present you is the person listening to me now. Past you is all the learning and memory experiences your brain has encoded. Future you is the one you're building. You are all three at once. Past you is constantly informing present you. Previous experiences constantly inform the present. Just something as simple as making a cup of tea. The memory of making a cup of tea means in the present you can know how to make a cup of tea. If you forgot everything that happened, everything would be fresh and new. So past you is encoded in the structure of your brain, your memories and your learning. Present you is the one that is deciding right now what to do, and future you is the one you're building slowly but surely. And what we also want you to build in the neocortex are these skills. These are the skills that are going to help you in your adult lives. Executive function skills, planning, organisation, managing to get ourselves started on difficult tasks like homework and revision, helping manage our attention, keeping going when it's tough. They are skills that sit in the neocortex. And we work our neocortex, we get more out of it. So what does working our neocortex look like? It means engaging in things that are good for our brain, engaging in exercise, making sure we get enough sleep, spending time with friends and family, doing things that are challenging, that help our brain grow new connections and new opportunities follow therefore. So I just wanted to mention this message from a student that I used to work with. I used to be a deputy head in a large secondary school, and James used to be in my science class because I also taught science. Now James lives in the same town as I do, and I sometimes come across James when I'm at the supermarket, and I saw him the other day, and he's 24 now, and I asked him a question. I said, every week, James, myself and my colleagues are speaking to students about the importance of doing well in GCSEs. What would be the message that you would give them from the position of you as a 24-year-old in the economy now? What would you say to them if you could speak to them? James, who's a bit of a lad, said, and I've changed his language slightly, if you think school is hard, you don't know Jack. I've put the word Jack in there because he used a different word. Basically, James said work is much, much harder. He works 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week at Gatwick, and earns quite good money for someone with his qualifications. What that means is, James unfortunately failed English and maths. He was capable of getting them, but he didn't revise and actually didn't work hard enough. So currently, James gets around £12.50 an hour, which works out about £7.50 a week, and he pays 250 quid in tax. So he gets about £2,000 a month, and he still lives with mum and dad, and he can't afford rent and council tax. So he's currently retaking English and maths, so he can get access to £15 per hour, which will give him enough money per month to be able to put a deposit down on a flat. So this is for you. GCSEs are for you. And I know some of you will say, well, when will I need this in my life? When will I need Pythagoras in my life? And the honest answer is, you probably won't. But passing GCSEs isn't about the content you're going to learn. It's about getting yourself organised and building the self-discipline to manage this year and be successful. Look at this quote. Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. If you choose challenging things, your brain will build the architecture to deal with the challenges of the future. If you take the easy path, life will get increasingly hard, because as we get older, life gets increasingly hard. You don't need me to tell you that. You see your parents working really hard every single day. Life as an adult is rarely demanding, so we need to give our brain the opportunity to grow the connections that it's going to need to be able to help us through our adult lives. So the last thing I want to mention before you engage in the other work we're doing today is to talk about growth affirming beliefs. Now, we're here to solve the GCSE problem, and we're going to give you lots of resources and lots of support and lots of information to help you understand how you can manage your day every day. But before we start any of that, I want to talk about beliefs. Beliefs and behaviours fall into two categories. Beliefs can be growth affirming beliefs. I can do this. If I really strive and work hard at my maths, I will get that grade. Growth affirming beliefs lead to growth affirming behaviours. These growth defeating beliefs, that teacher hates me, I'm never going to get better at that subject, what's the point? Growth defeating beliefs drive growth defeating behaviours. And basically, growth defeating beliefs, I can't get better or improve, I'm rubbish and everyone else is great. They're just beliefs, they're not true. They're a prison cell built around the mind by the brain, but there's a lock on the inside. And how do we unlock ourselves? By changing our habits, changing our goals, changing our relationships, and thinking about ourselves in a different way. So have a think about what stops you being successful. What are the barriers to change? For example, one of the biggest ones that students report to us is procrastination. I know I should, but I just can't be bothered right now. What stops most people achieving their goals is us. We stop ourselves. We don't do what we need to do to make what we want to do in the future happen. Changing and improving ourselves is really difficult to do. The best way to do it is to set goals. And I want you to think about goals. I want you to think about a mid-goal. So that middle bubble would be the GCSE grades you want to get in the summer. What grades do you want? You want to get a grade 6 for English literature, you want to get a grade 5 for English language, you want to get a grade 8 for physics. Those are your mid-goals. Your far goals are beyond that. So I want to go to college, I want to go to university, I want to set up my own business, I want to be an apprentice. That's 2, 3, 4 years beyond the end of GCSEs. Your near goals talk directly to your mid goals. So if you want to get a grade 6 in English, your near goal is I need to make sure that I'm doing something each day and each week to make sure that that 6 in English literature happens. It's not going to happen by accident. And that's why goals are really important, because they drive our habits. But our goals will only be positive if we've got growth affirming beliefs in the first place. So here's some example of near goals that students have set to improve their sleep, to build their memory, to calm themselves down so they're not so stressed about exams, and to tackle procrastination. And we really urge all the people we support to develop some sort of commitment structure. Ask themselves these questions once a week or once a day to see if the near goal that they've set themselves is actually happening. To improve their sleep, are they putting their phone down an hour before bed and going to bed at the same time? To build good memory, did they use study capture? You'll be introduced to study capture in a minute. To build their calm, did they practice through positive coping strategies? You'll be introduced to positive coping strategies shortly. And did they tackle their procrastination by doing activities to strengthen their executive function skills? For example, exercising every day. We believe that you can do it. In fact, I've never met you, but I know you can do it. How do I know it? Because you've got the most amazing bit of biological processing material between your ears. About the size and weight of a bag of flour. Your brain is amazing. We believe that you can do it. Do you?